Welcome back to the latest episode of Classic Gaming Quarterly TV, where today we're taking a look at another Everdrive product. This is the Turbo Everdrive for the Turbografx and PCE engine family of consoles. As you can see, it's about the same size as a HuCard, which makes sense because it uses the HuCard slot. Unlike most Everdrives, this one uses a micro SD card instead of a normal SD card. I had to go out and buy one. I didn't have a micro SD card, and I had to buy an 8GB one because it was the smallest one I could find locally. And unfortunately, I'm only using about 1/8 of that space because that's how big the Turbografx and PC engine libraries are. It would be nice if you could use the extra space to put CD images on and play CD games, but unfortunately that's not possible. So a few things on the board to point out. There's these unused solder contacts, which can be used for a USB port. You can order it with the USB port already installed. That's only really useful if you don't have a card reader and you want to be able to quickly upload and download ROMs to the card. Most people, myself included, have a card reader, so if I ever wanted to add more games, I would just pop the SD card out real fast and put some more games on it. It's also got a reset button right next to the SD card slot, and that's for resetting your system back out to the menu system instead of having to actually power cycle your console. So if you're in the middle of playing Magical Chase and you decide you want to play like Legendary Axe, you can just hit this button and select a new game and start that one up without having to turn your console off and on. Lastly, there is a region switch over here on the side, and you use that to set the region of your console. So if you had an American Turbografx or a TurboDuo, you'd set that to TG16, or if you had a Japanese TurboDuo or PC engine like I do, you want to set that over to PCE. And as long as you're not changing consoles, you never have to mess with that switch. But if you do change consoles, it's a simple matter to just flick the switch. This works with all consoles of that family, all PC engines, PC Engine Duos, the American Turbografx TurboDuo, also the PC Engine GT and Turbo Express, which are the handheld systems, and it even works with the SuperGrafx. So if you want to buy a SuperGrafx and not have to pay for there's only 6 or so games, I believe, on that console, but a couple of them are pretty pricey. And if you just want to check them out, you can put SuperGrafx ROMs on here and try them out that way. I really love this device. I think this might be the best Everdrive that there is, just in terms of usefulness, because of how expensive the library is for these consoles these days. And if you really just want to try it out and you don't want to mess with emulation, which of course I don't, then this is an awesome thing to have. I was lucky enough to get a decent library of games going for this system before the prices got insane. But if I was just starting off now and I really just wanted to play the games, I would just buy a console and buy one of these. As usual, or I guess not usual, but as I said last time, and as I would always say with an Everdrive, the best place to buy it is from retrogate.com, because that is the developer storefront. So you're buying it directly from the guy who designs and produces these. You can buy it from a third party and have it included with a case and an insert, maybe a manual or something. And if you're really concerned about how this looks when it's on the shelf, then maybe that's something you should do. But I'm not concerned with that. So my solution was to go on eBay and for $3 shipped, get a PC MCIA jewel case, which happens to be the perfect size for holding not only the Turbo Everdrive, but any HuCard. So if you've got some loose HuCards that you want to have in a nice rigid case, for $3 ship, you can get one of these. And maybe there's even a cheaper option, or you can buy them in bulk. I have no idea. But as you can see, the Everdrive fits in there perfectly and snaps shut, and you're good to go. And if you're feeling creative, or you have some graphic design skills, which I don't, you could even make a nice little insert for this, and it would look even cooler. But I don't care. I think it looks pretty cool just being able to see the device in there. So that being said, let's take a look at the device and how it works and what you can do with it. Okay, so I'll turn on my console, and it takes a couple seconds for the Everdrive to boot up, and when it does, you see the root directory of your SD card. And there, among a few items that my computer placed there, are the PC Engine and Turbografx-16 folders, and that's where I've got all my games. You can set this up any way you like. This is just how I've chosen to do it. The Everdrive uses all 4 buttons on the controller. The select button, no matter where you are, will immediately start whatever game is already loaded into the memory. So it's the last game that you played on the Everdrive is always in the memory until you put something new in there. So hitting select at any time will start that game. The start button is to load a new game into memory if you have a game highlighted. The 2 button on the controller is the OK or accept button, and 1 is the back button, except when you're on this home screen, and then hitting 1 is sort of like about this EverDrive. Like there's my OS and firmware versions. This was from the first batch of Turbo Everdrive, so I haven't updated it in any way. So if I want to play a Turbografx-16 game, I just highlight that folder, hit 2, and here are my Turbografx-16 games. Using the D-pad up and down steps through the games, and left and right turns the page. And you can see I have 5 pages worth of games, and that's actually all the games that were ever released for the Turbografx-16. So if I wanted to play Legendary Axe, for instance, I highlight it, I hit start, and it says it's loading. Do not turn off the system. What happens if you turn off the system? I don't know, but it's probably not good. So here is Legendary Axe. As I said in my video of the Nintendo EverDrive, this is not emulation in any way. The EverDrive just uses flash memory to supply the game data to your console, but functionally it is no different than playing the actual game. So there's really no downside at all to using one of these. So let's say I'm done playing Legendary Axe and I want to play something else. Now I could always power cycle my system, or I could just hit that little white reset button, like so, and the system reboots. And maybe now I want to play a PC Engine game. As I mentioned in the intro, there's nothing weird you have to do to play a PC Engine game because the system, or rather the EverDrive, already knows that you're now playing a Japanese game instead of a US game. So you just have to highlight whatever game you want to play, again, hit start, and you see it's no different than when I launched an American Turbografx game. You may have noticed that my PC Engine games were further subdivided into categories based on letter of the alphabet, and that is purely because, at least with my version of the firmware, there was a limitation of how many games you could have in one folder, and that may or may not have been cleared up in subsequent updates. Obviously, I haven't updated mine, and I don't really feel the need to, so mine are subcategorized. Even if it wasn't the case that limitation was there, it just makes it easier to find whatever game you're looking for. So, you know, even if I did upgrade the firmware and it did fix the problem, I'd just leave my games the way they are, just because it makes it a lot easier to find the game that you're looking for.
Go time factor. Multi-body. Wheel.
As I said in the intro, maybe of all the EverDrive units or devices, this might be the best one, just because, you know, obviously if you're a collector, you want to buy those games no matter what they cost, I guess. But, you know, if you just want to play those games, you can't go wrong with this device. I'd probably say the same thing these days about the Super Nintendo EverDrive, just because the Super Nintendo is starting to get kind of crazy expensive too, which is a real shame for people who are just getting into the hobby, but such is life. So that's pretty much all there is to the Turbo EverDrive. Like I said, highly recommended. And that's about it. So I will see you guys next time.